because no one understood research at all. And you're the one doing the everyday work, but you're also trying to help them understand what researchers do. This word AI, it keeps coming in. I mean, everything is Gen AI, everything is AI.
Hello, design enthusiasts and designers. I am Vanushi.
And I'm the Bangana.
We are back with another episode of ODC where we engage in candid conversation with some amazing designers every week.
Today, we are chatting with a UX research superstar who has had a remarkable journey through consultancies, startups, and MNCs. Currently rocking the role of a senior UX researcher at Adobe, Cydelle is also a sought after speaker at multiple forums like San Diego Experience Design Community, Lean Page, Hello Meets, just to name a few, where she shares her insights on navigating the UX research in a vibrant landscape of India. When she is not advocating for US research or diving deep into understanding user needs, you might find her enjoying various art forms for fun. Thank you for joining us today, Sidel. We are super excited to have you on today's episode of ODC. So, Sidel, to start with, can you walk us through a day in the life of a UX researcher?
There is no like an ideal day in a UX researcher's life. I might just summarize what multiple days in my life look like. So, as a researcher, I think a typical day or an ideal day would involve conducting your studies in which you are actually meeting your users. This can be in person or it can be online. You're doing your usability test, you're doing your user interviews, or any sort of research methodology that you have selected. After you're done doing these multiple sessions, you will next try to analyze all that data. So a lot of time is spent by, rewatching videos, going through notes, and also looking at survey responses and looking at data in general, no matter how it comes, and trying to find correlations, trying to find a category or something through the data, trying to see what the data indicates. And then you have like cross collaborating with your cross functional teams. It can be your stakeholders, that your design partners, your product managers, your engineers. You're also meeting with, let's say, the marketing team sometimes, because they do a lot of market analysis. They do a lot of data as well. So from them, you're just trying to either you're trying to advocate for research, you're trying to get into the user's perspective and tell them what the users are feeling, or you're trying to understand, what direction the product or the org is taking, and where can research play a part, or where do you think as a researcher it's right to go and talk to the user. And then I think the remaining parts of the day is sort of spent doing those roadshows. And when I say roadshows, I really mean doing those presentations time and again to make sure that all your findings are sort of visible, not only to your immediate team members, but also multiple teams across your organization. Because you never know what insight or what user need can be it might be essential for you, but it might also be essential for different teams within the company. So it might relate to them as well. So that is why you would try to surface your research as and when you can. And I think most of our researchers' ideal day, which I wish I could do so many things in a day, but it might look like this, and it's sort of spread over into a couple of weeks or a couple of months, depending on how many users you're talking to, the intensity of the research, and what are you trying to understand from the research. So that it might go on for months and days and weeks, but yeah, that's an ideal day.
From a product standpoint, like if you're inquiring on like a larger level, does it start as a business need, or is it like research who initiates the whole study, and then like basically like there are certain business needs to cater to, and then product teams get involved? Like how does that work?
It really depends. So I've been working on something that it started off as a user need, which was found out from previous research, and
Mhm.
that got prioritized with like execs and larger, the stakeholders of the product itself, I would say, and that user need sort of was prioritized, and it became a business need. But that was very on a very basic level that we've understood that this can be a potential place in our product where the users need to, get like they need some help, or they're actually struggling, or there is no sort of, for example, nothing has been done in this space before. Let's say in terms of a PDF file, this area, no one has done anything in PDFs. So that is why we thought, let's take this and let's build a business need around it. Obviously, there is a very business needs are drafted by the product people, business heads. They draft a very generic statement of, what the OKR should be, what is the impact it will have on our company, and where are we leaded. But I think based on that, we try on, diving into it a bit more and understanding things a bit more by doing further additional research. So it can be both ways. I must say it might come from a past research that, you have done or someone else has done, and it becomes a business need, or it might be a generic, where the industry is going, and where you're like, okay, this is where, as an in PDF industry, as a document and a productivity industry, this is where we all are headed, and this is a gap that we need to solve for. Or it can be something that the business one day decides that, let's go and do this. But whatever it is, it's either guided from research or later guided by research. So somewhere research has to fit in at the end of the day.
Yeah, so you spoke about research fitting in at the whole life cycle. Like where exactly research fits into, like from the very beginning to
Yeah.
the end.
So I think the first step in a product life cycle is, we always call it the discovery phase. It's a phase of idea generation as well. You might have different terms, different ways you've studied in college or in your own organizations that you use. So I think this is the earliest phase where I think research is absolutely crucial. I think you need to always start from research. It helps you identify what problems are there, what problems are worth solving for our user. It helps you sort of map out these problems based on like impact it might have on the user, or the intensity or severity that they are facing it in. So I think you must think of it as a mission before you embark on a product development. So you don't want to waste your time, you don't want to waste resources or money on it. So it's very important to do research before. So you're basically, you have researchers doing user interviews, they're doing market analysis, they're doing surveys to uncover what is the unmet needs and the pain points of our users. A lot of ethnographic researches happen here as well. You're also doing competitive analysis to identify opportunities and inform the over product vision that you have. The next thing, I think, once you have what direction the product needs to go in and what are those unmet needs, I think the next thing is like, you prioritize the decisions, because you have so many directions. You will, go back to your team of like your immediate team of PMs and designers, and you sort of map it, you sort of prioritize it as to what is very important for your organization and what needs to be taken forward from all of these, say, 5 insights that you've got. You might just map out to 3 important things that probably you want to immediately solve based on urgency and severity. And designers sort of think about what is the best way of catering to these problem areas. I think that's the best thing that you guys do, is finding out solutions to these and coming up with a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas. That again requires a concept validation that we all go through. We don't know what would fit, right? I mean, we're so much of explorers in our job. We might have 500 concepts which we all like, but I think that we need to validate what actually meets with that initial user need that they have. So getting back to those users and helping them validate is like making sure that you're testing your assumptions. You don't, before you invest heavily into development. Here you will do techniques like concept testing, prototype, a bit of like initial low fidelity prototyping. You'll also do surveys sometimes, because not everything can be concept tested. So you might just do some quick surveys. And then you move on to your design and development. Now, through this phase, based on like how much of a paradigm shift that design is, you will keep testing it. You'll keep testing the water so that you're not, getting away or going askew from your direction. So you'll have like A/B testing, you'll have usability testing, you'll have various other methodologies based on what is the goal that you want to get out from this new design that you have. And I think before the launch, you will have like beta testing. You kind of partner with engineers there. You'll
Mhm.
do a lot of beta testing, post-launch surveys. You'll make sure that you're having these testing parties. So you're not only finding bugs, but you're
Mhm.
also like making sure that you're getting real world feedback because everything is functional now. Like you're not only doing prototype testing now. Now everything works as it's supposed to work. So you need to make sure that it really, really doesn't have any massive issues before it gets launched. And I think really depends on how much of a change you're bringing in. You'll do those post-launch maintenance, as they call it. You'll keep getting those feedbacks and seeing, has it been like such a change or version that your users are like, I don't like this anymore?
Mhm.
Or has it been like, smaller feedbacks that you want to still consider cater to and then think about sort of reiterating or refining in the further sort of, quarters or further releases that you have. So these overall becomes a way of, where we think research can potentially fit in. Not every feature, not every change requires research in all of these steps. Sometimes we are very sure of things because, it's not a big change. Sometimes we are not. Sometimes it's a new thing that, oh my God, this is the first time we are doing this in this product. So let's like not do something that is drastically hampering our progress or hampering the product's growth. So yeah, I think that is something that we do in general.
So, Cyril, you mentioned a couple of research methods like ethnography, usability testing, survey, A/B testing, right? So, how do you determine the right research method for any project or any feature area that you're working on? And if you can help us with some example that you might have worked on.
Yeah, so I think research method is mostly like, choosing a right tool from a vast toolbox that you have. And now the toolbox like keeps growing every year. So it like you need, as a researcher who's been in this field for like almost 5 years now, I still feel I need to like buck up on what methodologies are coming up. And it's like learning a Gen Z phrase every single time. I'm just like, what does this mean? So, so, so then I think, yeah, that's what I do. I keep reading on like what is the new method and what can I incorporate now in my work. So I think like I said, there are a couple of methods that are used for exploratory research. Now, and that's in the discovery phase. So over here, you generally just want to talk to your users. You really want to understand their pain points, get as much input from them. So I think doing ethnographic studies and interviews is really, really, really good in that sense. So like, for example, we wanted to know when I was back in Swiggy as a researcher, we wanted to know what does the restaurant ecosystem look like? Like, when an order comes to a restaurant till the order gets fulfilled, what happens in that entire world? And we didn't know it. So I think what we did was just go to these different restaurants and just observe what they're doing and how they're doing it. And then writing down our notes, like, just observing where they're facing challenges, where are the hiccups in that entire ecosystem, and then sort of setting aside time with them to understand, okay, what are your challenges, what are your pain points, where exactly in that entire ecosystem you feel that we are not meeting your needs or we are like disrupting your general workflow. So that is very important to understand in exploratory research, where you're just asking a lot of questions and observing silently. In when it comes to validating your solutions, there are a bundle of methods you can use from. So let's say you have like you want to go through an entire workflow, you do usability tests. You want to sort of test two different experiments, you do A/B testing. You have concept validation, which is very low fidelity early on. Maybe you don't even have designs for it. Maybe you just have like a write-up thing, a user story write-up, and you want people to go through that narrative and then tell you like does that narrative sort of fit into their world, fit into their problems. So those are those early concept testings that you have. And sometimes not all, like in the early stages you want to moderate it, you want to go ahead and talk to these people, but in the later stages you can also do unmoderated, where there are a lot of platforms right now on the internet. You have user testing, you have user Zoom available, where you can go and upload your studies in that, like just questions and your prototype. It's all NDA based, so if your organization has a tie up with it, you then make sure that nothing is leaked, but you can allow users to sort of test those prototypes in their own time. and they can, you can get back on whole recording to see how are they performing. And in unmoderated, the good part is you're not there to like call it like a lab test. You're not, it's more of a real life test for them. So wherever they are facing problems, they will be completely honest with it. So these are like a few things. You also want to track changes for ongoing products, ongoing features. You want to track how the user satisfaction levels are. You want to see if they're happy, not happy with the product, with the change. So then surveys like your NPS, which is Net Promoter Scores, can also be useful. So it's not always like meeting your users face to face. It can also be worked out by doing your surveys and customer satisfaction surveys, which gives you a lot of feedback ad hoc, which you can like sift through and see, and then decide whether you want to like, sort of top it over with meeting them and understanding these few points more in detail. So that is a couple of like research methodologies you can go through. There is a, like I said, it's a vast list. It's available everywhere online. It keeps growing as well. So it's better to read up every single time and then decide like, what exactly you're trying to understand and map that, what questions you have with the right methodology that solves it. I always do that. Like I'll see the questions I have, what I want to understand, and then map it with a methodology, which I genuine anyways learn like every single day. So yeah, that's what I do.
So, given your experience in both product companies and consultancy settings, could you explain how the approach to research differs in both of them, like both of these environments?
So I did my research like in consultancy in an agency called People Design. I worked there for around a year and a half before moving into a product company. So I think in agency, I think, and the difference between agency and product, in agency, you sort of often work with multiple clients. So we had a vast array of people we worked with. We had different organizations, we had different startups that we partnered with. And the projects are generally short term. It's fast paced, but it's short term. It's more focused on delivering specific insights or answering to specific questions within a tight frame or a tight deadline. So you might get an opportunity to work with a lot of research methodologies because the kind of problem statements that come to you are so different that at one point you're doing user testing, then the second week you're just on an ethnographic trip, and the third week you're doing some A/B testing. So I think for me that was a good space or a good platform. So to sort of try my hand at every research methodology to see how it works and to see how like the outcomes of each methodology and what it actually sort of solves for. Now, in comparison to a product setting, I think it shifts you to one single product, one single initiative in your organization. Like Swiggy, I worked majorly on the consumer side. That's the app that we use to order the food. And within that also, I just worked on like discovery and a menu, like selecting a menu. There was someone else working on like checkout. There was someone else working on track screen. And then I was working largely on the restaurant space, is understanding the entire owner ecosystem or the restaurant ecosystem. In Adobe, I work for Acrobat. It's a productivity tool for PDFs. But I would there also, it's a very small stream called collaboration, which is seeing how people work on a PDF together, review it, or how they review PDF files and at what stage that happens with PDF files. So I think it shifts you to a single product, a single stream. And the research is very ongoing. I mean, it doesn't stop. In agency, you stop, you give it away, and then you don't know what happens to that research. At sometimes you'll see that feature launch or you'll see that change in the product, and like, I worked on this. So that's the reaction you have to agency research. But I think in product setting, you're like, it's ongoing. You're deeply integrated into the product. You are treated as an equal partner or the owner of that product or the feature. And you become sort of an expert of that domain. Like I think I was the expert when I was working in the restaurant ecosystem. I knew everything in and out of what's happening in that world. I know what's happening in the collaboration world for PDFs, and the research the insights that you get, it influences the long-term product strategy. It's not like short-term goals. You're meeting short-term goals, but your responsibility is to think about that long-term strategy or long-term initiative you have. So that is one. I think the I talk about the research methodology. So the experience you have is like the breadth of experience you have with methodologies is far more in like an agency than in a product company. I think in product company, what works is your convincing power, the soft skills. I'm sure this is very important. Your research skills are very, very important. Don't get me wrong. But I think you're also, doing your convincing skills. You're doing your fine tuning your soft skills. You have to advocate. You have to play a lot more roles than just being a researcher, which is required out of you in an agency because you're just meeting that person for like a month or a week and that's it. You don't communicate with them anymore until and unless they come back again. But I think you develop other expertise when you're working in a product company. It teaches you how to build relationships, long-term relationships with your designers, with your product managers, with your managers. You're not just delivering, reporting, and moving on. You're collaborating continuously, which doesn't happen in an agency again. So you try to understand how to play that role as a collaborator as well. And agency work is again very fast-paced, like I said, tight deadlines. So you need quick turnarounds as soon as you get done. You have to keep sharing things on the go, which is a bit hectic. But I think in what happens in the product company, though it's still fast paced, but it's not as much like you don't have quick turnarounds. You really need to think through before you sort of put anything out there and say anything because it can have tremendous impact on something that is very long term. So I think that way you're adapting your workflow as well. And I think what changed for me is that mentality as well. Like I feel more of an owner of the product right now, rather than just feel like a service, like I'm just doing the service and I'm getting your research done. So I think the mentality of owning and influencing something also changes when you are in a product company. You get into that strategic thinking where you're thinking about the product future, you're always thinking about your users, you're always like, having the soft corner for your users every single time because you're like, I am like very in depth into this right now. So I think that mentality shifts from when you shift from an agency to a product company.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like in a company like Adobe or even before in Swiggy, I'm
Hmm.
trying to understand what kind of challenges you might have encountered while raising awareness for the need of UX research at any point in time, like within your triad, like with your PMs. Like mostly, I think designers understand, but
Yeah.
with your PMs and engineers, how do you raise that awareness? And like if you can tell us like some instances or like
Hmm.
some things you might have done to do it. Yeah.
Sure. I think Swiggy was a very, very new company. It did not have many user researchers. We were like one of two. We started the whole user research pod, you can say, or the user research initiative in Swiggy. So I think their awareness was much of a challenge because no one understood research at all. And you're the one doing the everyday work, but you're also like, trying to help them understand what researchers do. And I think the first challenge, which I think every researcher faces in a startup, would be market research is different. User research is different. Like we come in a very different space. I think market research is more of doing surveys, you're understanding the market, or you're understanding gaps. User research, obviously you can work with a market researcher, but I think it gets more in depth in, understanding the user specific needs and problems. So I think that was the first challenge where we had to educate on what is the differences, what does this team do, what is the role and responsibilities. And I think the next thing that a user researcher faces is like everything is not about design testing. Like what we do is not just design testing. Like a lot of people hire user researchers because they want to validate their designs, but I think it's more than that. I think the second challenge that we face as a researcher is when people sort of assume that a researcher is supposed to only validate designs, they do not think of a researcher as someone who could do those foundational exploratory work. They only think that, if my designs are validated and if my designs are like, gets like a green signal, that's what I need my researchers for. And that is something to change that mentality is a process because when you think about exploratory research, it takes a lot of time, it's a lot of investment, and many companies do not, like many teams also do not give that much time and investment for these particular phases of a researcher's job. So I think making people sort of understand why is an exploratory research needed and what is the purpose of it is also very important and also very some of those challenges are very common with the research. So how did I tackle these challenges? One is like making your work more visible. Like everyone is like waiting for those meaty insights. Now, how it comes and how you put it out there is your job. So I think that any insight is new for people. Any insight is like, oh my God, I didn't think about this. So as much as you can, sort of making your work visible. And we used to do this in Swiggy a lot, where we used to make snippets of video clips that we highlighted. And these are like those constant challenges we've been hearing or key problems we've been hearing. So we like took shorter snippets, clubbed them up together, and we used to just send it across those design groups and the research channel and be like, this is what we've been hearing from our users. We used to have lunch and learns where we used to play these user snippets where people used to come, they used to get their food. And lunch and learns used to be like, just see what your users are saying, having a discussion about what users are saying, what are the challenges are facing, and what are the most common things that you have. Another thing that we experimented in Swiggy and Adobe as well is those storytelling. Like I know that the easiest way for a researcher to put forth their insights is make a presentation, which is what they need to be focused on. But sometimes I feel that going above and beyond a presentation also is very important. Like we did an entire room of insights. We put photos, we put like interactive screens where you could see videos. So having people engage with those personas, with those user journeys became very important. We made it fun and interactive. We had like those emojis where we put in like, this is where people are facing a challenge. This is absolutely, and we put their user quotes with it. So sometimes presentations are okay. It's faster. It gets you there faster. But I feel that in a company, when people do not buy it very quickly. I think to go above and beyond and take that little trouble to do more in terms of, putting up charts or putting up a wall full of insights or doing these lunch and learns can get people more intrigued in the work you're doing. It gets people, you get more buy-ins in also as well. Like, they're like, oh my God, if this is what you got for this thing, then I want to do it for my work as well. And how might you help me? So I feel like creating that visibility and space for you is very important as a researcher. I think that some of us are very boxed by saying, no, this is our job and we'll do it till the presentation only. But, that doesn't help everybody. And sometimes presentations, I kid you not, research presentations can get very boring. We do we do 50 odd slides with data and people have lost it at 25. So I think go beyond presentations is something that we always strive for, especially now that we're getting back to um, going back to our offices, then I think leverage the office space to do this.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like the whole room of insights. Like
Yeah.
I wish to be in that room because I'm pretty sure I'll be
Yeah.
like much more like triggered by issues than I am like seeing some slides. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Abs-
there was a lot of like thinking we had to do for that. So we went to like, no, this is where all the restaurant people who work on the restaurant site sit. This is the floor. So we took one meeting room on their floor. So anyone who was walking across those meeting rooms were like, oh, what's happening here? And then they get into it, and then they see it, and they automatically get insights that actually pertain to their area of work. So I think
Yeah.
that also is very play it strategic is what I would say. Like think about
And
different ways. Yeah.
yeah, and this was open to anybody, like as in like PMs and engineers can also walk in and oh,
Yes.
amazing, amazing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. So shifting gears a little, how do you see the role of AI in user research, and how can these, advanced technologies, be embraced to enhance the research methods and the processes as well?
This word AI. It keeps coming in. I mean, everything is Gen AI, everything is AI right now. I mean, I think we had no option but to get into it. I mean, we had to like heads down just dive into it. That's how I learned swimming as well. So might as well. so no, I think AI it what I feels like it makes things more efficient. Like you can consider it to be a partner which you partner with, especially when it comes to user research. I have not used much of AI tools in research, but I've used some that are available, like on Miro or on survey tools that are there. And I feel that it's very helpful in like processing your data faster.
Hmm.
It gets like, let's say you have 100, 200 post-its of just like insights that you've collected. It makes my life easier in just taking those common tags and keywords and doing those clusters together, which I might obviously spend a lot of time sifting through. So I feel there AI is very, very important in processing data and giving you those keywords in sort of lessening your time that you spend in doing this. Another place where I saw AI coming into use is where you get those analysis of once you watch a recording, you get an analysis of this is the part where the user said something good. This is the part where they said something bad, and they tag it in like greens and reds. It's there on user testing, and I'm just like, okay, now I don't have to watch an entire video. I can just
Hmm.
go through these parts maybe and then see, okay, what has, really worked for our users and what didn't work for our users, and probably a usability testing. And the turnaround of a usability test is far more like it's faster than your exploratory. So maybe you want to go through the videos very fast and see, what did they like, what did they like, where did they face challenges. So an AI that processes this and gives you those terms of, this is what they said good, this is what they said bad. That's very good. So I think that the options that I have access to is pretty less, but I feel that whatever I have used so far, it just makes my life very easier. And things that I might be doing it very robotic. Like I'm just clustering 10 post-its together that mean the same thing. It's very robotic for me. It just
Hmm.
makes it faster for me. And then I can use my own expertise to like, come up with the insights and come up with the opportunities and see the gaps. But that labor intensive work sort of gets removed from AI. Another thing that I prefer, what I call AI, is like a partner. I'm mostly in teams, you might be the only researcher, or you might be in an entire company, you might be the only researcher. And I feel that these places you can treat it as a sounding board, because I'm sure you don't have access to a lot of researchers in the team or people coming from the same expertise. Your manager might not come from a research background as well, unfortunately. So treat it like a sounding board where you're, trying to get some help, trying to think about new ways of doing your research, think about new questions. So something that like a jamming partner, I would say. Obviously, don't feed in all your data to it. It's going to be very confidential. But yeah, on a way to get help from it rather than, do the major chunk of work. So do the labor intensive work there, and the major thing of, thinking and getting to your insights and all. That is something that you can do by yourself as a researcher. So I feel, yeah, that is what AI is to me right now.
So, sir, you've worked on a wide range of research projects like in the last 5, 6 years, right? So, can you think of like one or two of those instances where it was like really this that surprising kind of insights, right? We get like I've done like a couple of research still now, and I have like one or two that I always remember that
Hmm.
wow, I did not think of this ever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
can you give us insights like that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple. I think what blows my mind always is you design so much and to make their life so easy. And I can't deep dive into one particular thing because there's so much, but I'll talk about a theme that you're designing like easier ways to collaborate, and you're doing so many things. And now with AI, you're adding AI to it as well, and there is so much happening to help our users, and they're going and sending an email. To send them. And I think that sort of like always surprises me that there's so much happening in the world, and there is so much that we are doing to make their life easy, but they will still be so clinging on to their traditional methods, so their methods that they have been using. And I think we've always said that to our parents, like, why don't you use something new? But I think I also fit into that same category right now. Like, I don't want to use something new because it's so much of a change of space for me. I need to learn this again, and it's too much. So I think that always surprises me, like, where a lot of things are done and users will still prefer their way of working. And then to understand what is it that they prefer about emails, or what is it that they prefer about, like, say, using WhatsApp over using 10 other apps that give you messaging. Like, there'll be a lot of things that they will say. That they will be saying, like, reliability, accountability. They don't want to learn something new. They don't want to shift away. So using those key terms and making sure that, somehow, I don't know, but somehow that your product sort of gets to those sort of motivations and gets to those sentiments, and then provides like a similar experience for them to, like, increase those adoptions, or think about how can we provide reliability that an email gives, how can we provide accountability and transparency an email gives, how can we provide things like, for example, things like, threads, like keeping saving histories that an email does. So these sentiments matter to them, not that they don't want to switch, but we're not considering these sentiments at all. So I feel that these things really surprise me. Like, we've done so much and they still hold back to what they've used. And I think what a good way of understanding these things is understanding what is the sentiment behind it, and how can you work to give and provide those sentiments, rather than just create something new because, wow, the world's moving ahead. But yeah, I think that is something that a lot of people fail to understand, and that's always very surprising. Like, for example, some of the researchers have done in smaller towns, it's so crazy. Like, a small thing like icon, like, we always read and the icon with a label and all of that. In smaller towns in India, they don't read, and they just look at the icon, and they are just, I mean, they don't even think before clicking on something. They're like, "Ha, ye share karna hai." Share is like three sort of circles with those lines, and I'm going to click on it, and they don't even know what it does after that. And it always surprises me how much people just look at icons and blindly go and do this, and we depend so much on, like, let's just change and make some new icon will change overnight, and then they are completely lost. So I
Mm.
feel that this is something that understanding what people are habituated to is always very surprising, because when you're habituated, people do these things like, they become very robotic in their task. They don't think before doing anything. They know where it's like typing on your keyboard. If you change from QWERTY to ABCs now, you will mess up your entire typing or whatever you want to talk about. So I think that way people are very accustomed to what they're doing, and I think that thinking about what is the sentiment behind that, being accustomed to that, is very important, and that's very surprising as a researcher.
Yeah, the icon things is very real. So
Yeah.
I did my master's in Kanpur, right? So there was a small village right next to our college, Nankari village. We used to do all our testing there. And we used to realize that, like, we think of an icon in a certain way because that is how we relate to it, but
Yeah.
that is completely different from how they perceive whatever we are showing them.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right. I,
interesting.
I think I think research also gets real when you, like, go from metro cities to smaller cities. Like, we always understood, like, when I used to work back in Hike Messenger, and people used to, like, in metros, people would, like, with stickers, and I don't use stickers. I'm mostly into typing and all. But when we went to smaller tier two cities like in Amravati, or we went to Nasik and everything, we realized how much of stickers people use for communication. It just helped them communicate because maybe English wasn't their first language, maybe typing wasn't easier for them. We also understood, like, a phone in a smaller town is not a personal asset, it's a shared asset.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
a phone is shared between a mother and a daughter. A phone is shared between two siblings. So it becomes even more to understand privacy in these cases, to understand securing your data, to understand, like, why do we keep hiding chats? Because, yeah, two siblings are using their phones. They can't, like, show chats to everyone. So I think it's very important to even consider that in your research, that, not only cater to one type of cohort, but also look into other things, because that's when you get the most surprises, and that's when you'll be like, this is not working for these people.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So, Sada, let's take a small break and have some fun. Okay. So, we'll play
Yeah.
a quick game.
Okay.
It's a rapid fire round, and I'll give you two
Oh,
options.
damn.
You have to choose
Okay.
this one. Okay. Are
Okay.
you
Done.
okay?
Done.
Okay. So, a day with art supplies versus a evening in a stand-up show.
Stand-up show.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
going to a stand-up show versus a day at a beach.
Beach.
Okay. A day at the
Obviously, I'm
beach.
always a beach girl.
A day at the beach versus a rainy afternoon beside your window with a warm beverage.
Beach.
Okay. A day at the beach versus a quiet evening with your favorite Harry Potter book.
Ah, Harry Potter book. Yeah,
All right. Quiet evening with your Harry Potter book versus a house party with close friends.
Harry Potter book any day.
All right. Evening with your Harry Potter book versus a scenic hike in nature.
Harry Potter book.
The rest of it doesn't matter anymore at this point. But I still ask. Let's see. I'll still ask. Okay. Harry Potter versus quiet afternoon of baking your favorite treats.
Baking, baking.
Ah, okay. We're getting somewhere. So baking versus a weekend camping trip.
Baking.
All right. Baking versus a day at Disneyland.
Oh, oh, Christ. Disneyland, and of course.
Yeah, I guess the last one will also be Disneyland. It's Disneyland versus a spontaneous road trip.
Disneyland. A spontaneous road trip to Disneyland.
Correct, correct. That's a better option. Awesome, awesome. That was super fun. All right, so moving on to the next segment. Here we will deep dive into like UX research as a career option. Um, so let's start by discussing career path, right? What are your thoughts on choosing research and design, like research versus design? So you come from a industrial design background, but you chose to
Yeah.
go into the research field. So how did you take this decision for yourself?
Okay. My God, this is ages back. But I think what actually motivated me in industrial design was the research part of it. I was very intrigued to doing analysis and understanding what direction we need to take as industrial designers, or understanding things like what is the problem that users are facing when we design certain kind of a product. We would go back to our users and do like the ergonomics testing, and we used to see whether people are using it well and if they are able to handle these products well. I did not know that user research can be a full-fledged career. I thought a designer does everything, like you are generally made to think. And I was very shocked during one of my jury projects that one of the people who came in, one of the jury members, was a researcher, was a design researcher back then. He had a studio and everything. And then I started looking for design research options in India for my internship. And as much as I wanted to, I did not. Design research back then again was very, very rare. And I stumbled on UX research while I was applying for different companies and agencies actually, because companies also didn't have UX research in India. And I started learning about what is UX and what does a researcher do there. And what's the gist of it is whether you're a design researcher or UX researcher, so that the things you play around with is different. There you're playing with around with tangible products, there you're playing around with screens. But I think the methodology, the process, everything is very similar. What you do, maybe here and there you might have tad bit of differences, but I think the understanding the problem and everything is very, very similar. So I felt that okay, in order to gain that expertise of what a researcher does and what methodologies can be used, I thought the best way is to dive into UX research without thinking. And I always wanted to start off in an agency to learn more. And that's how I landed up my first internship. And I was interning with Dero at that point of time. And it was fun. And I think we learned a lot as to what needs to be done, how is a session held, what are the protocols, what is being ethical in research. You just can't go out there and ask questions or record someone. So I think that all made me think about that, within the design and the research world, let's just move into design research and like leave behind the design part of it. My core area of like being intrigued and curious was more in the research world of it. So that's how I made a transition. And I think I've been enjoying it so far. I don't think I would ever want to switch to design anymore. You can do it. You can still switch to it if you have that skill. But I feel that I am more, even more happier being a researcher right now. So yeah, that was my detour.
Right, but you did mention that people can switch back to design if they
Yeah.
want to. Is that easy, like to switch between design and research, like after working as a researcher or a designer for a couple of years?
Um, I I mean, it all depends. It all depends on your skill level and expertise that you have. I'm sure you might have to like step down from a few
Mm.
positions that you have, but and you've gained over time. But I think that, it's only it's only like possible if you have the required skill set and you're able to grow that skill set. Like I don't even know the last time I used a design tool or designed something. So
Mm.
I don't think I have that required potential or skill set to learn something new and to get back into designing. I don't think I can do it.
Mm.
But if you are thoroughly motivated and you think that okay, you are more contribute as a designer, then I think just hone up to that skill set, try to grow more, and from where you left off to where you are, see what's changed right now, what else can you, like Figma is a big change that we've had ever since college to now. So learning a new tool also becomes very important. So see what has changed or evolved over time, try your hand at it, create a few designs if possible, or work towards a personal project if possible, and then try to switch. I wouldn't say the switch happens overnight. It is a long overtime process that you have to work towards, because things change like within months here in our world, especially. So keeping up to it also is a big skill that you need to have. So yeah, yeah, per se.
Yeah, but I think that applies to even a designer, right? From when we were in college, we had Illustrator, we were mostly working
Yeah.
on. To Figma, it was like in between my job, I had to quickly ramp up to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I feel that, overnight things change. Even for a researcher, I'm sure that the research we did back in college was nothing. And let's say a designer
Mm.
overnight wants to do research. There's a lot more that, reading up or taking a course, or, even I think the best way that I have learned is just talking to researchers within, like people I had access to, like people who are my mentors or researchers in the team, just talking to them and understanding how that growth happens, how does the transition happens, how do I level up to where they are, or if I wanted to start afresh, how do I level up to that, can be one way that you can go about looking at a thing. But I feel that both of these jobs are so like passion oriented. Like if you have the passion to deal with users and get those go through humongous amount of data, digging in deeper into data, then I would say go to research. If you have that passion of problem solving, being creative, then be a designer. So it's not only having the skills; it's about what pushes you to be that person. I see a lot of people not cutting it through being a designer, not cutting it through to be a researcher because they give up. Like they're like, why do I need to talk to so many people? So I think that is it's much dependent on your passion and what motivates you to choose these job roles or to switch to these job roles.
Right. You did mention some courses. Like, are there anything on the top of your mind that you would suggest somebody who's trying to make a switch to research?
I would suggest that there are a lot of online courses that you can learn the basics. Like I would suggest there are things on Coursera, LinkedIn Learning is great as well.
Mm.
You have Nielsen Norman, which is the I would call it the Bible for UX research. So I think sort of doing formal courses and certifications, if you have the resources for it, access to it, I think these are enough to get you to the basics of research. Obviously, formal education. I don't have the chance of a formal research education like the psychology and HCI and all. But if you have that as a formal education background, shifting to UX research is very easier. But I feel like the more hands-on experience you have, which is worked on the best for me, is more valuable. I think the best way to learn research or the best way to even learn design is by doing it. Volunteer for projects, start your own personal projects. It can be as small as, something you don't like in an app. Like I don't like hot star search, so I will go and try and figure out, what can be done, and try and figure out problems you face in your own app, and then try and solve for it. Talk to people who use it as well. Maybe Uber, Ola, people who use these apps continuously. These can be great. Netflix can be great to also do personal projects and learn more, see the space more. Conduct your own studies, and then sort of build into your portfolio, do some freelance gigs if you can. And I think that is the best way of learning research, because that gives you like real world experience rather than just reading books. Like, I did not understand what a methodology of a research does till I went and actually used it. And you would not understand it till you actually use it. So if you like a particular method, then probably try using it and try to understand what you gain out of it. So I think that works a lot for research.
Okay, so we spoke about some of the roles other than UX research. I wanted to understand how can the skills from UX research translate into maybe some other positions like product management or project management. So if you can help us understand that also a little.
Right. I think as a researcher, since you're already skilled at understanding your user needs, which is also one of the core of product management, I think you already have a bit of it. I think you also have experience as a researcher in prioritizing features, or prioritizing opportunity areas based on your user feedback, and you also prioritize based on the business goal or the OKR that your organization is running. So, which is again another crux for a PM. So, I think how can you transition? I feel. Is by starting to get more involved in strategic discussions, or about product directions, about business goals, having those conversations, and more of a, I think what is needed more here to improve is those conversational skills. Like, you're trying to understand what's happening outside your workspace, what's happening in the business world, what's happening in the strategic world, where is your organization headed as an individual as well. So trying to get more involved, trying to get more information, trying to partner with multiple people, like, you're partnering to understand design timelines, you're partnering to understand data, you're partnering to understand research. So I feel this is more important. Take on, and I think what is the best way to transition, I feel, and what I've seen also, and I've seen a researcher transition to being a PM, is by finding that one person you can, like, keep going to get mentored with, to shadow, I would say, keep shadowing to understand what their day in a life looks like, to understand what the meetings they have, what the conversations they're having, what the challenges they're facing. I feel shadowing is the best way of, first of all, understanding whether that space is right for you or not, to sort of have a checklist of the skills you have versus the skills you need. And then thinking, okay, these are the 10 skills I need. Let's like talk to people, multiple people around, try to probably say how can I hone those skills, like talk to a PM and understand from them key, if I need to understand business for that matter. And I'm really very poor at understanding business. So trying to go and know, figuring out how can you get these terminologies, how do you understand this even more, how do you prioritize based on business. So all of that stuff you can learn from people, and then sort of take like smaller sort of ownerships of a small feature, like in a small feature in a small product area, work closely with your PM and understand the full life cycle from ideation to launch, and the responsibilities and roles they play. So I feel that can be good to transition not only to PMs but to any sort of any sort of area opportunity that you want to grow in, for that matter.
Got it. Basically, treating the transition also as a research project from start to end.
Yeah, I kind of treat everything like that. So I just like shadow is my greatest thing, but I think it's like helped me a lot to understand what I'm good at, what I need to improve in, and also gives you like notes that you can take about, okay, if this was a challenge someone faced, or this was a blocker someone faced, how did they handle it? And if at all you face the same challenges and the same blockers, you know a way of taking and dealing with it. One is you learn from your own experience, but then it's a big part of it is you learn from others' experiences as well. So you can mix and match and make your way through it.
Got it. So let's say there is a recent grad or someone who wants to start into the field of UX research. Could you walk us through like the general UX research interview process, or what should candidates keep in mind while they are documenting or showcasing their portfolio or any like UX research work?
I think the interviews, I mean, really depends on the organizations. I think the large organizations have multiple steps. You've all been through it. In startups also, you will have like a good about 3 to 4 rounds of interviews. I think as a researcher, your first thing is to understand your core skills, to understand the methods. If you would face a challenge, like if you get like a problem area of this sort, how would you solve for it? What would be your approach towards it? That is just to see your expert levels, the amount of knowledge you have about your skill, how much of grasp you have it, and how do you solve for any problem that you face. So that is like the first few rounds. The second round can be your collaboration with your stakeholders. So you will be definitely asked to be with, say, a PM or a designer. There'll be a conversation with them, and that's mostly to understand how do you collaborate with them. Like how would you sort of conduct these meetings, conduct these workshops, brainstorming sessions? How would you conduct a meeting to get what a PM needs from you? Like a lot of time, a lot of your researchers' time goes in, figuring out what is that they want to research, and sometimes even they don't know, and you also don't know. So you just have continuous conversations that you have with them, and that is something that we want to figure out. Can a researcher deal with ambiguity? Can they deal with like vast directions of questions thrown at them? How will they go through these questions? How will they decide, what is very important to be done in this research? Sometimes you don't even have to cater to all of those questions, and the research is something all new, different that you need to like figure out by yourself. That's the second one. The third one would be your portfolio show. I think that's a panel discussion that you have. Always have 1 to 2 good projects in your portfolios. One showing probably an exploratory research, and one showing a validative or an evaluative research, because that's the two spectrums in a product world as well. Always in your portfolio show, you can mention the direction you took, the approach you took, what were you trying to solve, and how did you come to that problem statement? Like, because we all know that problem statement is not given to you in a platter. You have to come down to it. So how did you arrive at that, and how did you approach that? What was your timelines that you took to do this, and what did you learn from it? Those 3 or 4, highly impactful thing that you learned, that, and how did it impact the product in another way? That is something that you could do. A lot of merit is in talking about templates that you've made, or new directions or new methodology that you tested out, because that's what we are we are always in a constant search for, that people are not only sort of they are just not only dependent on their usual methodologies, but they're also experimenting, coming up with new workflows and a new template all around. And then how do you advocate for that research? Like whatever you found out, how did you make sure that it reached the right people at the right time? And you constantly kept reminding people of what has come through. A lot of researchers don't do this, but we always want this as challenges. We know that all of this doesn't happen, like it's not all hunky dory and all of that. So I think that showing challenges that you face and what you learn from those challenges, those blockers, because every challenge pushes you to find a workaround. And that shows how much of, accommodative you are, how much adaptive you are as a researcher. And that is the demand of our job. We have to be adaptive. Like what if there is no resources, or what if there is, maybe you don't have that many users, you didn't have access to users. What if you had to go to a smaller town that, getting to your users to even have a conversation was difficult. So it's always good to showcase those challenges, and how did you find those workarounds, and complete your research is very important for us as well. So I think challenges, talking about your approach, talking about how you arrived to that approach, and talking about the impact and outcome is very, very important. Last thing that I personally like in portfolios is when people put in what could they have done differently. I love it. That's my favorite slide because I'm just like, yeah, you were made to do this because of circumstances, maybe because of pressure or because of what was required at that point. But if you had to do the same project and you had everything at your command, what would you do differently? And that sort of just makes me showcase like creativity. Like if I had everything, this was what I would do different. Or it would also showcase your growth as a researcher. Like maybe this didn't go well in this project, and this is what I want to think about differently, and probably cater to more time, probably talk to someone from the data team to have more access, whatever that could be. But that I feel is very, very important in portfolio. And after that, I think what works in companies and teams, especially design, is the culture fit. So that's the last thing that you have to pass to see how fun you are as a person, how of a team player that you are. And it's very important, not only in design but in any other team, is to make sure that you don't even you think about your growth and the product growth as well, but how you are growing the team. For researchers, I feel it's very cool to talk about things like teaching designers to do research, or teaching PMs to do research, or things like maybe creating accessible research repository for the entire, like finding your own ways to help not only your product but your entire design team as a whole, or the research team as a whole. You're creating repositories, you're finding easier way to do things, you're finding a new method. So thinking about beyond your own world is also another thing that I would suggest researchers to look into.
It's very helpful. So, Cydelle, if people want to reach out to you or they want to see more of your work, how should they go about it?
I do a lot of like mentorships ad hoc. If people reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, I think that's the two places I'm very active. I don't use any other platform. So if you really need any research help, just feel free to reach out to me, and we can set up some mentorship time over the weekend. I do like half an hour every weekend, whenever I get the time to do so. But yeah, any possible. So any questions about research, how to transition, as well as things that I've also done, like help people with viewing their portfolios. So just simply reach out and I'll be there.
Cool. So we'll put the links to your contact detail in our description. And a big thank
Yes.
you to you, Cydelle, for coming here and for this amazing conversation. It was really, really helpful. And to our viewers
Yeah.
also, thank you so much for watching. And stay tuned for our upcoming episodes. And feel free to please suggest in the comment section. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and remember to subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.